The courtroom froze the moment the senator's daughter screamed, "You're trash," at Judge Judy. Entitlement wrapped around her like armor, but it shattered fast. With every hidden document revealed, and every deleted message dragged back to life, her arrogance crumbled into panic. The final piece of evidence didn't just expose her lies, it destroyed them. And when you find out what came next, trust me, you won't believe your ears. Before we jump in, tell me, where are you watching from? And don't forget to hit that subscribe button. The air shifted the moment he walked in. The insult still hung in the air like smoke that refused to clear. Lila Harrington stood defiant, every inch of her posture declaring superiority, as if the courtroom itself were beneath her. Judge Judy did not react, which made the silence feel sharper than the outburst. The room had not recovered. Even the fluorescent lights seemed to buzz differently, as if the energy had shifted the second Lila shouted. A senator's daughter, the golden heir of political polish, glaring at the judge with eyes full of inherited confidence, convinced that the world rearranged itself to accommodate her moods. Judge Judy's gaze, calm and level, moved across the space. No raised voice, no dramatic gesture. Just that quiet scrutiny that made grown adults shrink without her saying a single word. But Lila did not shrink. She tilted her chin higher, as if daring the air itself to disagree with her. The plaintiff, a soft-spoken small business owner named Marisol Vega, tried to steady the papers in her hands. They trembled anyway. She had walked into court carrying months of frustration and financial wounds. She had not expected to be attacked by political arrogance on top of it. When she opened her mouth to speak, Lila cut her off with a dismissive wave. "Can we get this over with? Some of us have actual work to do," Lila said, loud enough for the entire courtroom to hear. A few spectators exchanged glances, not the amused kind. More like the, "Oh, she picked the wrong judge today" kind. Judge Judy leaned forward slightly. It was a movement so small, so measured, that it functioned like a pressure drop in the room. Lila noticed it, but misread it as weakness rather than warning. "Miss Harrington," Judy said, her tone steady. "You will not speak over the plaintiff again," Lila scoffed. "I am only clarifying. She keeps exaggerating." Marisol swallowed hard. Her voice, gentle but resolute, finally emerged. "I am not exaggerating. Your car caused over $14,000 in damage to my storefront, and you ignored every attempt to resolve it." Lila rolled her eyes, a gesture so sharp it could have drawn blood. $14,000, she repeated, dripping disbelief. "That place is barely worth half that. Be serious." The air tightened. Someone in the back let out a low gasp that quickly dissolved into silence. Even the bailiff turned his head, just enough to signal that disrespect had crossed a threshold. Judge Judy did not raise her voice. She did not need to. "You will choose your next words very carefully." For the first time, Lila blinked a tiny fracture in her armor. Her fingers curled around her designer purse, gripping it with more force than she intended. The clerk stepped forward and placed a large, heavy file on Judy's bench. The thud echoed like a warning. Lila's attention flicked toward it, and for the first time, something resembling concern flickered behind her eyes. Judy opened the cover slowly, deliberately. "Miss Harrington," she said, "I believe this file belongs to you." The color drained from Lila's face, but the truth, waiting inside the folder, had only just begun to surface. The file sat between them like a trap she never saw coming. Lila Harrington's confidence flickered, just for a heartbeat, as the manila cover reflected the courtroom lights. Judge Judy did not rush. She let the silence tighten around the senator's daughter until it pressed against her skin. "You said you wanted to get this over with," Judy said quietly. "So let us begin." The clerk stepped back, hands folded, as if even he sensed the shift in atmosphere. The courtroom felt colder now, as though the truth inside that folder was changing the temperature. Lila straightened her shoulders again, attempting to reverse the crack in her mask. "That file is," she started, but stopped. The hesitation exposed more than any admission could. Marisol watched from the plaintiff's podium, her fingers still trembling around the edges of her documents. But her eyes were steady. The kind of steady born from exhaustion and determination blending into a single emotional line. She had waited months for someone to finally take her seriously. Judy flipped the first page of the file. The soft rustle sounded louder than it should have, like a whisper that belonged to something dangerous. "This is an incident report," Judy said. "One that details the damages to Miss Vega's storefront. One that your attorneys claimed did not exist." Lila's jaw tightened. I never saw that report. My father handles those things." "His office." Judge Judy raised one hand, palm outward. It was not aggressive, it was authority distilled into a single gesture. "Your father is not here, Miss Harrington." "You are." The spectators stirred as if witnessing something rare, entitlement colliding with a wall it could not move. Lila forced a laugh, airy and brittle. "Judge, there must be some kind of mistake. I was told this case was frivolous. I was told she was exaggerating everything for attention." Marisol's eyes watered, but she blinked the emotion back. "Not weakness, restraint. I did not want attention. I wanted the damage covered so my employees could come back to work." Judy nodded slightly, absorbing the weight of the plaintiff's voice before turning back to Lila. "Your claim that this case is frivolous contradicts the evidence in this file, and your signature appears throughout these documents." The last sentence sliced through Lila's composure. "My what?" Judy rotated the page toward her. A clear signature, bold, looping, unmistakable, lay across the bottom. Lila's face drained of color, then flushed again, as if her own disbelief fought with the truth staring back at her. "That is not, it cannot be. It is dated," Judy continued, her voice calm but firm, "and it predates every statement you made this morning." The air felt heavier, like the room itself knew there was no returning to the arrogance that opened the hearing. Something had shifted, something irreversible. Lila reached for her purse with shaking fingers, searching for control she no longer had. Judge Judy closed the folder with a soft but final thud. "Miss Harrington," she said, eyes narrowing, "this file should not exist, according to you. And yet, here it is." The silence was no longer waiting. It was accusing. Lila's fingers hovered above the file, like touching it might burn her. Her practiced smile, the political daughter's trademark, strained at the edges. And for the first time, the room began to see the truth behind the performance. Judge Judy did not move. She simply watched, expression unreadable, as Lila fought to stitch her facade back together. But every breath Lila drew sounded uneven, like her confidence was collapsing in small, invisible pieces. Marisol stood still, the quiet center of a storm she never asked for. Her hands no longer trembled. There was something grounding about seeing the truth finally shift toward her, a slow tilt of justice she had almost given up on. "Would you like to explain your signature, Miss Harrington?" Judy asked. The question floated gently, but it landed with the weight of a gavel. Lila blinked twice, too quickly. "I said I never saw that report. Someone must have added my name without your knowledge?" Judy finished for her. "An interesting claim." The spectators exchanged subtle nods. Even the bailiff raised an eyebrow, the small, knowing gesture of someone who had seen arrogance try to outrun evidence before. Lila drew in a shallow breath, gathering the remnants of her composure. "Judge, this situation has been blown out of proportion. My father's office assured me this entire thing was a misunderstanding. They said she flicked her hand toward Marisol, was exaggerating to force a payout." Marisol inhaled sharply. "I lost 2 months of business and 3 employees because of the damage. I sent emails, letters, voicemails, and you never responded." Lila looked away. "I was busy." Judge Judy leaned back in her chair slightly, a small motion with a large meaning. "Busy people still bear responsibility for the harm they cause." Lila's laugh slipped out a brittle sound. "You do not get it. People come after my family all the time. They exaggerate, twist stories, make us look like villains." Judy did not flinch. "And do you believe Miss Vega is doing that now?" Lila opened her mouth, ready to deliver another dismissive retort, but something faltered. A tremor crossed her lower lip. The certainty she carried into the courtroom no longer seemed like certainty at all. I do not know," she said. It was the first honest thing she had uttered. Judy tapped the file lightly, drawing every eye in the room. This report, your signature, and the documented communications suggest otherwise. Your narrative does not align with the evidence. The performance cracked a little more. The light above flickered, its pulse mirroring the uneven rhythm of Lila's breathing. She clasped her purse again, as if gripping something tangible might stop the unraveling inside her. "Miss Harrington," Judy said, her voice calm but edged with something unmistakable. "Your testimony does not add up, and we are only on the first document." Lila's eyes widened. "Only the first? That leads me to a question I expect an honest answer to." The room leaned in. Judge Judy lifted a second page, one Lila clearly recognized. "Why?" Judy asked quietly. "Did you tell your insurance adjuster a completely different story?" The last thread of Lila's composure snapped in the silence that followed. Lila's breath hitched as Judge Judy lifted the second page, the one she recognized instantly. Her confidence did not just crack now, it recoiled. And, for the first time, entitlement began to look a lot like fear. The courtroom settled into a hush so complete that even paper seemed afraid to rustle. Lila stepped back, shoulders squared but trembling beneath the fabric of her expensive blazer. Her mask had not fallen, but it was slipping, and she could feel it. Judge Judy studied her with the kind of measured silence that had undone far stronger personalities. "Miss Harrington," she said, tapping the document once, "your insurance report contradicts everything you just testified." Lila swallowed, her throat tightening. "That is because, Your Honor, you have to understand, my father's office handles most of these things." She said it quickly, like someone reaching for a life raft. There it was. The first invocation of power. The senator. You could feel the courtroom react, a barely audible ripple of curiosity mixed with irritation. The shadow of political influence drifted into the room, shifting the emotional gravity. Marisol stiffened. The mere mention of the senator made her body tense, the way someone tenses when a door they knocked on for months is finally referenced out loud. Judge Judy did not blink. "Your father is not on trial here. You are." Lila flushed, her cheeks turning the color of exposed truth. "But you do understand how these things work, right? People give us false claims all the time. My family, we deal with this constantly." Judy lowered her gaze just slightly, a warning more powerful than any raised voice. "Miss Harrington, what I understand is that responsibility does not evaporate because a parent holds office." Lila's lips parted. She had expected deference, not this surgical calmness cutting through her narrative. Marisol spoke carefully, her voice gaining strength. "I reached out to the senator's office. I begged for help. I explained the financial strain. No one ever replied." Lila winced, a small, involuntary twitch. "That is not my department." "Your department," Judy repeated softly, "is telling the truth in my courtroom." Lila's hands trembled now. She dug her nails into the leather of her purse, trying to anchor herself in something tactile. Judge Judy tapped the second page again. "You told your insurance adjuster that you were not the driver, that someone else was using your vehicle." The room stilled. Lila blinked rapidly, panic fluttering behind her eyes. "Ah." The senator's shadow grew darker. "You made that statement," Judy clarified, "under penalty of perjury." Lila's mouth opened, then closed again, as if words were dissolving before they could escape. Judge Judy turned another page slowly, deliberately. "Miss Harrington," she said, "there is something else here. Something your father's office insisted we would never obtain." Lila froze. Judy held the document up between two fingers, the paper trembling only because Lila's fear seemed to vibrate through the air itself. "And this," Judy said calmly, "changes everything." Lila's eyes locked onto the document Judge Judy held up, and whatever color was left in her face drained away. Her own signature stared back at her, bold, undeniable, and merciless. It was the kind of truth that did not ask for permission before shattering someone. Judge Judy set the document on the bench with the precision of someone placing evidence that would decide a future. "This," she said, sliding it forward, "is a signed acknowledgement of liability. Your signature." The room responded before Lila did. A soft gasp from the audience, a shift in the bailiff's stance, the faint hum of lights sharpening into tension. Lila's throat bobbed as she swallowed. That cannot be mine." Her voice was thin, stretched, the sound of someone trying to cling to an identity collapsing under them. Judy raised an eyebrow. "You deny this is your signature?" Lila hesitated. A fatal hesitation. I do not remember signing anything like that." "Yet the date," Judy replied, turning the page slightly, "is 2 days after the incident, and the form was submitted directly from your personal email." Lila's fingers tightened around her purse handle until her knuckles paled. The confident daughter of a powerful senator now looked like a teenager caught in a lie she thought she would never have to answer for. Marisol exhaled softly, not in triumph, but in the quiet grief of someone seeing the truth they always knew finally take shape before others. "I was told my staff handled it," Lila murmured. "My father said." Judy cut in, calm but immovable. "Your father is not here. This is your signature. Your responsibility. Your consequences." The silence that followed had density heavy enough to make breath feel like effort. Lila's eyes darted from the document to Marisol, then back to Judy, as if searching for a version of reality where this wasn't happening. Someone must have forged it. "People target our family all the time." "Forgery?" Judy repeated, voice cool. "Before you continue down that road, I advise you to consider the seriousness of that claim." Lila froze. Her eyes shimmered not with tears, but with panic. Marisol stepped forward, voice steady. "I emailed you directly with that form attached. You replied. You said you would take care of it." A tremor ran across Lila's lower lip. I do not remember replying." Judge Judy angled her head, studying Lila with the quiet accuracy of someone who had seen countless performances crack under their own weight. "It appears," Judy said slowly, "that the only person you are running from is yourself." The file remained open between them, her signature bold and accusing, the ink still metaphorically warm from the lie she had built around it. Desperation surged through Lila's posture. "If this is real," she whispered, "then show me the surveillance footage. The entire thing. I want to see it all." Her tone was frantic now, not confident, not strategic. "Cornered." Judy nodded once. "Very well." The lights dimmed as a monitor flickered to life. Everyone leaned forward. And the moment the first frame appeared, the entire courtroom inhaled as one. The lights dimmed as the monitor flickered alive, painting the courtroom in cold blue shadows. Lila stood rigid, her breath shallow, as if the darkness itself were turning against her. And when the first frame appeared, arrogance had nowhere left to hide. The footage opened with the quiet hum of a street at dusk. A shaky camera angle caught the glint of Lila's luxury SUV rolling too fast down the narrow lane. The crowd leaned forward as the vehicle clipped the edge of Marisol's storefront awning, sending debris scattering across the sidewalk like startled birds. The sound, that sharp, cracking impact, echoed through the courtroom. Marisol flinched. Not because it hurt to watch, but because she had lived through this moment alone, while the world around her stayed indifferent. Lila, frozen to the center of the room, stared at the screen as though watching a stranger wearing her body. Her eyes widened, her lips parting in disbelief. She was not sure she could fake anymore. The video continued. Lila stepped out of the driver's seat, hair immaculate, irritation flashing across her face as if the damaged storefront inconvenienced her day. She waved off a couple approaching to help, brushing past them with an air of rehearsed superiority. And then the worst part, the camera picked up her voice clear, annoyed, cutting. "Relax. It is not like anyone even shops here." A collective gasp moved through the courtroom like wind through a tight corridor. Marisol lowered her gaze, jaw trembling in memory. Judge Judy's expression did not change, but her eyes sharpened. Silence landed heavily, forcing Lila to confront her own recorded truth. That is out of context," Lila stammered. "It is distorted. Someone edited that. They must have." Her voice cracked not from fear of the court, but from fear of being undeniably seen. Judy did not respond immediately. She let the silence stretch, Let it become a mirror Lila could not look away from. Then she asked, "Are you claiming this footage is fabricated?" Lila blinked too fast. I am saying it looks edited." The bailiff crossed his arms. The spectators exchanged glances that grew heavier with every passing second. Judy gestured to the screen. "The timestamp aligns with the police call logs. The footage was submitted directly from a nearby business. And your voice is your voice." Lila's hands trembled. "You do not understand. People hate my family. They manipulate things. They twist." Marisol stepped forward, her voice fragile but unwavering. "No one twisted anything, Miss Harrington. I just wanted you to take responsibility." For a moment, Lila looked at her, really looked as if seeing the human cost for the first time. Her jaw tightened as the last piece of her performance strained under the weight of consequence. Judge Judy clicked the monitor off. The darkness left behind felt heavier than the footage itself. "Miss Harrington," she said, her tone solemn, "we are now past the point of excuses." Lila's breath shook. "So, what happens now?" Judy folded her hands. "That depends entirely on what you choose to admit next. If you were sitting in that courtroom, what would you do? Stay silent, or speak up after witnessing that footage?" Lila's breathing turned uneven, the kind that comes when someone knows their own story is slipping from their grip. Her nails dug into the leather of her purse, desperate for something solid as the truth rearranged itself around her. And when she finally spoke, it came out as a plea that sounded too close to panic. "Judge, please," Lila said, voice trembling through her forced composure. "This footage does not show everything. It is misleading. I reacted that way because I was scared." Judy lifted one eyebrow. "Scared?" "You appeared irritated, not frightened." Lila's lips twitched into a brittle half-smile. "People approach me all the time, Your Honor. I thought they were filming me to exploit the situation." Her explanation landed flat, hollow. Even she seemed aware of how flimsy it sounded. The courtroom maintained a respectful silence, but the air vibrated with disbelief. Marisol watched her closely, not with anger anymore, but with a soft ache of sadness. Harm did not become less painful just because the person who caused it finally flinched. Judge Judy leaned back slightly, hands folded. "Miss Harrington, the footage shows you laughing, not panicking." Lila's shoulders jerked. "It was nerves. I laugh when I am stressed. My father says it is a coping mechanism." There it was again, the senator's shadow, reaching in to justify what reality could not. Judy's tone remained steady. "Your father is not on trial. This case is about your actions and your responses." The spectators shifted, tension rolling through the room like a low tide. Lila's eyes darted around, looking for an ally where none existed. "I want to see the rest of the footage," she said suddenly. "All of it. There must be more." "There is," Judy replied, tapping the bench lightly. "But it does not help your case." Something in Lila seemed to splinter then. Her posture stiffened, her breathing sharpened, and she leaned forward with a kind of frantic energy that made even the bailiff take a cautious half-step toward her. "You cannot just show the worst parts," she insisted. "You are making me look like a monster." Judy didn't blink. "I am showing what happened." "That is not fair," Lila shouted. "You do not understand how many people come after us, how much pressure I am under." Marisol flinched again, but this time not from hurt, from recognition of a desperation she had seen in other people who believed accountability was cruelty. Judy paused, letting silence stretch long enough to pierce through Lila's outburst. "Miss Harrington," she said softly, "no one here is interested in your father's political burdens. We are examining the consequences of your choices." Lila's breathing turned ragged. "You are twisting this. You are all twisting this. Show the messages. Show everything." Judy nodded to the bailiff. "We will," she said. "Please hand me your phone so we can review the relevant communications." The request hit Lila like a blow. Her eyes widened, panic flickering openly now. She clutched her purse to her chest, knuckles whitening. You cannot look at my phone," she whispered. "That is private." Judy's gaze was calm, unwavering. Miss Harrington, what exactly are you afraid we will find? The room froze. Lila clutched her purse like a shield, her fingers shaking hard enough to make the leather strain. Judge Judy's request for the phone hung between them, not loud but devastating. And in that trembling silence, everyone could feel the truth circling closer. I said no, Lila whispered, arms tightening. You cannot have my phone. That is an invasion of privacy. Her voice tried to steady itself, but the tremor in it betrayed every ounce of unraveling underneath. The courtroom watched her shrink back, the space around her suddenly feeling too small, too bright, too honest. Judge Judy kept her tone level. Miss Harrington, phone records pertaining to this incident are admissible. You made this relevant. Lila shook her head, breath quickening. You do not get it. People lie about us, twist our words, twist everything we say. If you start combing through my messages, you will make assumptions that are not true. The bailiff took one slow step forward, not threatening, just present. A visual reminder that the court, not Lila, controlled the space now. Marisol watched with quiet intensity, her hands resting on the podium. She felt no triumph, just the ache of watching someone who caused so much harm still fight the truth like it was a personal injustice. Judy folded her hands. Miss Harrington, if you have nothing to hide, this should not concern you. Lila's eyes flashed with something between fear and fury. I have everything to hide from people who want to destroy my family. You think I do not know how this works? One screenshot gets taken out of context, and suddenly I am a national headline. Senator's daughter attacks small business. She breathed sharply, losing rhythm. I cannot let you twist my messages. I will not. Judy didn't raise her voice. Miss Harrington, the only one twisting anything here is you. The room absorbed the line like a collective breath. Lila stumbled backward a half step, the emotional hit landing harder than anything before. You are targeting me because of who my father is, she shouted. No, Judy replied, leaning forward just slightly. I am holding you accountable because of what you did. The difference cracked through the air. Lila's face contorted as panic climbed her spine. She tried another angle, reaching for whatever scraps of control she could salvage. Then bring in the rest of the footage. Show the part where I checked the damage. Show where I talked to people. We did, Judy said. It is in the file. Lila blinked. The walls tightened. The truth tightened. And the messages? Judy continued. Will you hand over the phone willingly? Lila clutched her purse even tighter. I will not. Judy gave a single nod to the bailiff, her voice cool and final. Then the court will rely on the phone records already obtained. Lila froze. Already obtained? Her voice quivered, then dropped to a hollow whisper. What? What do you mean? Judy picked up a new set of documents, the pages crisp and damning. These logs, she said, show communication you deleted. Gasps rippled through the gallery. Lila stumbled, breath collapsing in her chest, and Judy's eyes sharpened. This, she said, is where your story begins to break. Lila's knees bent slightly, as if the weight of Judge Judy's words pushed her downward. Deleted messages, the phrase alone made the room lean in. And for the first time, fear stopped hiding behind her arrogance. Judge Judy laid the phone logs flat on the bench, the pages fanning out like blades. These records, she said calmly, belong to your carrier. They cannot be altered. They cannot be erased. They cannot be spun. Lila's chest rose and fell in a frantic rhythm, breath too fast to steady. I did not delete anything important. People delete messages all the time. It does not mean. It does when the messages correspond to the exact hours following the incident, Judy interrupted, her voice sharp but measured. And it does when one of the remaining fragments reads, "Make sure nothing gets out." The gallery gasped. Marisol's fingers curled into her palms. Even the bailiff's exhale deepened. Lila shook her head violently. That is not what it sounds like. That was about it. I was overwhelmed, and someone was threatening me. And then you will have no issue explaining, Judy said. sliding one page forward. Why, the next message says, "If anyone asks, I was not driving." Lila's mouth fell open, but no sound escaped. The courtroom waited. Silence pressed in from all sides, dense with judgment and something deeper disappointment. The calm in Judge Judy's voice made the truth even sharper. Your insurance report said a friend was driving, your earlier testimony claimed you were alone, and yet, this message suggests you were crafting a story before any investigation occurred. The color drained from Lila's cheeks, leaving her looking like a statue someone had cracked down the center. "You do not understand," she whispered. "I was scared. People look for reasons to ruin us. I was trying to protect my family." Marisol finally spoke, her voice soft but unwavering. "While I was trying to save mine." The words hit harder than any evidence. Lila flinched, guilt washing over her expression like a shadow passing across glass. Judy nodded toward the plaintiff. "Miss Vega has been remarkably patient considering the harm she endured. But this case is not about your family, Miss Harrington. It is about your choices." Lila's gaze darted desperately around the courtroom, searching for escape, for disbelief, for anything that contradicted the reality tightening around her. But the room had shifted. Recognition, not sympathy, now filled the spectators' eyes. And the truth she tried so hard to control, had begun speaking for itself. Judy tapped one last line on the logs. "There is a number here. Repeated calls, repeated messages. Someone advising you. Someone who seems to know more about this cover-up." Lila's lips parted, trembling. "Who?" Judy asked, her tone quiet but surgical. "Told you to hide this?" Lila's knees buckled slightly. For the first time in the entire proceeding, she did not have an answer. "Do you think remorse should ever erase guilt, or does justice require accountability, no matter how late the truth arrives?" The side door clicked open before Lila could form an answer. Every head turned as a young woman stepped inside, eyes lowered but shoulders stiff with the weight of truth. And the moment Lila recognized her, her breath broke into pieces. Amber Carson, the one person Lila had insisted knew nothing. The one name she avoided, the one number repeated throughout the phone logs, walked toward the witness stand with a careful, quiet determination. A kind of determination that did not belong to someone hiding something. It belonged to someone finally tired of hiding. Lila staggered back a step. "Amber? What are you doing? You are not supposed to be here." Amber did not look at her. She kept her gaze on the judge as she was sworn in. Her hands trembled only once, and then steadied, as though the truth itself had finally given her permission to breathe. Judge Judy folded her hands. "Miss Carson, your name appears repeatedly in the phone records following the incident. The court has summoned you to clarify your involvement." Lila shook her head violently. "She is confused. She does not know anything about this case. She was not even there." Amber closed her eyes for a moment, gathering courage. When she opened them, the room felt smaller, more intimate, as if everyone were suddenly seated inside the truth she carried. "I know more than I wanted to," Amber said softly. "Lila called me the night it happened. She was panicking, telling me the damage was no big deal and that her dad's office would clean it up. She begged me to delete our messages before anyone saw them." A ripple of breath moved across the gallery. Lila's face drained of all remaining color. "That is not true," she cried. "Amber, why are you doing this? You know how people treat my family. You know what this will become." But Amber's shoulders sagged with something deeper: exhaustion, guilt, and a kind of emotional bruising that had lived beneath her silence too long. "You pressured me, Lila," she whispered. "You told me to say you were not driving. You told me to back you up if anyone asked. I did it because you said you needed me. Because you always say that when you want something." Lila looked like she had been struck. "You are lying," she whispered, but the conviction had vanished from her voice. "You promised." "I promised because I was afraid of you," Amber said. "Not because it was right." Judge Judy leaned forward, her voice quiet but cutting. "Miss Carson, did Miss Harrington instruct you to destroy evidence related to this case?" Amber hesitated, a long, trembling hesitation that felt like the world pausing on its axis. "Yes," she said. She did. A collective gasp rippled through the room. Marisol closed her eyes, a single tear escaping not for herself, but for the weight of watching the truth finally fight its way to the surface. Lila shook her head again, frantic and unraveling. Amber, please stop. You do not understand what you are doing. Amber finally turned toward her the first time their eyes met since she entered. I understand exactly, she said. I am telling the truth. And then she added a final line, her voice cracking under its own honesty. There is something else. Something she never wanted anyone to see. Amber's final words hung in the room with the weight of a secret that had waited too long to be spoken. Lila's entire body went still, her expression no longer defensive, just terrified, and the moment Amber reached into her bag, the courtroom felt the air tighten. Amber placed a folded sheet of paper on the witness stand, her hand trembling as if the truth itself were electric. Judge Judy nodded for her to continue. This, Amber said softly, is a message Lila sent me 2 weeks before the crash. Lila's breath fractured into pieces. Amber, don't do this. You know that's private. Amber shook her head, eyes glistening. It stopped being private when people got hurt. The bailiff carried the printout to Judge Judy. She read it silently. Her jaw did not tighten. Her eyes did not widen, but something in her posture changed, a slight forward lean that signaled gravity. Miss Harrington, Judy said evenly, did you write this message? Lila swallowed hard. I don't know what it is. I write a lot of things. Everyone texts things they don't mean. Judy turned the page toward her. Then let's refresh your memory. The courtroom strained to read her expression as she scanned the lines. Her face folded inward, cheeks sinking, pupils trembling. Whatever shield she'd been holding, arrogance, entitlement, excuses, cracked under the force of recognition. Marisol didn't move. She stood like someone bracing for impact, knowing the truth was about to land somewhere unexpected. Judy summarized the message aloud, each word deliberate. She gets everything. The customers adore her. She makes me feel invisible. I swear, if something would just put her in her place, maybe someone would finally see me. A stunned silence fell. Not angry stunned. She? Judy asked, eyes lifting. Amber's voice was barely above a whisper. She meant Marisol. Marisol's breath caught. Not from anger, but from the piercing sadness of hearing that someone's pain had turned her into a target she never deserved to be. Lila's shoulders caved inward. I didn't mean it literally, she whispered. It was just venting. You don't understand what it's like. No one ever sees me. I'm just the senator's daughter. A shadow in every room. Her voice cracked, and this time the break sounded real. I never wanted to hurt anyone, she went on, tears finally forming. I just wanted someone to notice me, to care, to see that I exist outside my father's world. For the first time, the courtroom didn't look at her with disdain, but with a quiet, complicated empathy. Judge Judy breathed in slowly. Her look wasn't softened, but it wasn't harsh either. It carried something heavier. Understanding mixed with consequence. Miss Harrington, she said, your feelings may explain your actions, but they do not excuse them. Lila nodded, a tiny, shattered gesture. Amber spoke again, her voice trembling. There's one more line you didn't read. Your Honor. She pointed to the bottom of the page. Lila's eyes widened in dread. Judy read it silently, and her expression finally shifted, tightening with something sharp and unmistakable. The courtroom held its breath. Whatever that last line was, it was the one that changed everything. Judge Judy's eyes rose slowly from the page, and something in her expression, a tight, controlled flicker, told the entire courtroom that the final line had changed the air. Lila watched her, breath shallow, as though bracing for a sentence she already knew she deserved. And when Judy finally spoke, the room leaned forward as one. Maybe if the universe gave her a setback, people would finally stop comparing us. Judy didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. The line cut without volume, landing with the sharp, cold precision of truth that had waited too long to surface. Marisol's lips parted in disbelief, but she didn't speak. She couldn't. Her expression softened into something painful, something human, not anger, but the realization that she had been collateral damage in someone else's unseen war with themselves. Lila folded inward, her hands shaking at her sides. Her face, once held high with practiced superiority, now looked stripped bare. "I didn't mean a real setback," she whispered. I meant something small. Just something to make people see me for once." Amber stared down at her own hands, guilt rippling across her features. She had carried the secret long enough to feel stained by it, but telling it now did not bring relief, only truth. Judge Judy let a long silence settle. Not oppressive, not dramatic, reflective. The kind of silence that forces everyone in the room to see beyond the facts into the emotional undercurrent beneath them. "Miss Harrington," Judy said finally, her voice soft but immovable, "you have spent this entire hearing insisting that you were misunderstood, that you were targeted, that you were protecting your family. But everything we've uncovered shows one thing clearly. You were drowning in your own invisibility, and you tried to drag someone else under with you." A tear rolled down Lila's cheek. She didn't wipe it. "I never wanted to hurt her," she whispered. "I just felt like no one cared whether I existed." Marisol stepped forward slightly, a cautious, almost hesitant movement. "People would have seen you," she said gently, "if you had ever looked at them, not past them." Lila flinched, because the truth wasn't cruel, it was accurate. Judge Judy exhaled quietly, a sound that held neither sympathy nor anger. It held understanding and consequence. "Responsibility," Judy said, "is not about who sees you, it's about who is affected by the choices you make." Lila nodded, her shoulders trembling under the weight of recognition, the kind that comes when a person's internal world is finally, painfully exposed. Amber wiped her eyes. Marisol steadied her breath, and the courtroom, once electric with outrage, now felt heavier, slower, quieter. This wasn't the collapse of a villain. It was the unraveling of a lonely, unseen girl whose pain had turned outward. Judge Judy straightened her papers, the signal that reflection was ending, and consequences would begin. "Miss Harrington," she said, her voice carrying the gravity of the moment, "we now move to the matter of accountability." Lila closed her eyes. The reckoning had arrived. The courtroom felt strangely still, not quiet, not tense, but suspended. Lila stood at the center of it, no longer the senator's daughter draped in entitlement, but a young woman stripped of her defenses. And Judge Judy's silence pressed her to speak, or to crumble. Lila's fingers curled against the wood of the defendant's podium. Her knuckles whitened, breath trembling as though every inhale scraped against something sharp. She tried for a fleeting second to lift her chin in the posture she'd mastered her entire life. The posture that said, "I am untouchable," but the weight of truth had rewritten her spine. Her voice, when it finally emerged, was small. I didn't know how far it had gone." She swallowed hard, her throat tight. "I thought if people saw me as strong, like my dad, I could survive the scrutiny. I never wanted." Her voice cracked. And this time she didn't hide it. "I never wanted anyone to get hurt because of me." Marisol watched her with a complicated expression, pain, yes, but also a hint of human recognition. Even wounded hearts can see the brokenness in someone else. Judge Judy leaned forward slightly, hands folded in a posture that commanded stillness. "Strength," she said, "is not measured by how loud you are, or who fears you. It is measured by what you do when you've caused harm." Lila's lips trembled. "I was wrong," she whispered. "About all of it. About her. About the accident. About the cover-up. About myself." The last word broke on her tongue, like a confession she'd never allowed herself to say aloud. The spectators, who once glared at her with judgment, now stared with something softer, not forgiveness yet, but understanding of how deeply she had fractured beneath her polished exterior. Judy continued, her tone gentle but unwavering. "I am not here to humiliate you. I am here to bring clarity. And clarity is often painful." A tear slid down Lila's cheek. She didn't wipe it. She stood still, letting it fall like something earned. Amber looked at her with eyes that held a mix of sorrow and relief. "You could have asked for help," she murmured, voice trembling. You didn't have to lie to me. You didn't have to drag me into something so dangerous. Lila closed her eyes, shoulders shaking. I didn't know how to ask, she admitted. I thought if I showed weakness, I'd disappear again, that no one would see me. Marisol's voice entered the space softly. People see honesty. They see humility. They see responsibility. She paused. And those things make you visible in a way entitlement never will. The line hit Lila harder than any accusation. Judge Judy straightened her papers. The anticipation in the room sharpened, the emotional arc rising toward its inevitable conclusion. Miss Harrington, Judy said, you have spent years standing on a pedestal built by others. Today, you stand on the ground, your own ground for the first time. Lila nodded, wiping her face with the back of her shaking hand. And now, Judy continued, her voice gaining quiet authority, we must turn to the question of consequence. The moment froze, a heartbeat suspended. Lila lifted her eyes to the judge, no longer hiding behind power or fear. I'm ready, she whispered. Judge Judy's gaze settled on Lila with a gravity that made the room fall silent. The transformation in Lila was undeniable, arrogance stripped away, replaced by raw, trembling honesty. But consequence does not pause simply because someone finally understands the weight of their actions. Judge Judy adjusted her glasses, her tone shifting into something quietly resolute. Miss Harrington, accountability is not cruelty. It is the necessary boundary between harm and healing. Her voice resonated through the courtroom, steady as bedrock. Today is not about your father's shadow. It is about the damage you caused and the damage you tried to conceal. Lila's head dipped, not out of defeat but acceptance. A slow, painful acceptance that came from recognizing that the world no longer bent around her name. Marisol's gaze remained soft but unwavering. She wasn't waiting for a victory. She was waiting for recognition. Waiting for the moment Lila finally understood the ripple effect of her choices that had shut down a business, cost people their jobs, and bruised a woman's sense of safety and worth. Judy continued, her voice sharpening just slightly. You manipulated a friend. You lied to your insurance company. You attempted to erase evidence. These actions were not accidents. They were decisions. Lila's breathing hitched. I know, she whispered, voice cracking like thin ice. I know. I thought I could fix it before it spiraled. And every time I tried to cover one mistake, 10 more appeared. That, Judy replied, is the nature of dishonesty. It multiplies faster than truth can catch it. Amber bowed her head, tears sliding down her cheeks. She had been dragged into a storm meant to shield someone else, but standing here now, she finally felt the beginning of release. Judy shifted her attention gently toward Marisol. Miss Vega, you have shown remarkable grace throughout this ordeal. The court recognizes not only your financial losses, but the emotional toll these months have taken. Marisol blinked, trying to maintain composure. I just wanted to move forward, she said softly. I wanted my business back. I wanted honesty. And you deserve it, Judy said with finality. She turned her attention once more to Lila. Her voice lowered into something almost reflective. Miss Harrington, people often confuse consequence with humiliation, but humiliation tears someone down. Consequence builds what was broken, including the person responsible. Lila wiped her cheeks, nodding slowly. I'm ready to hear it, she whispered. Whatever happens next, I'm ready. But Judy did not give the verdict yet. The room wasn't prepared, not until the emotional reckoning fully settled. Instead, Judy set the file aside with deliberate calm. Before this court delivers its final decision, you need to understand why the consequence will be what it is. The atmosphere tightened, not hostile, but anticipatory. Lila lifted her gaze, eyes red but steady. Will it fix what I did? She asked quietly. No consequence can change the past, Judy replied. But it can teach you the value of the truth you ignored. And then she reached for the gavel. Do you believe someone like Lila can truly change, or do people simply learn to hide their ego better? Let me know your thoughts. The gavel hovered in Judge Judy's hand, not yet striking. its wooden weight suspended like a held breath over the courtroom. Lila stood motionless at the defendant's podium, her chest rising in shallow, uneven pulls. The quiet around her was not hostile, it was contemplative, reflective, the kind of stillness that follows a storm that has finally exhausted itself. Judge Judy looked down at the file one last time, then closed it with deliberate care. "This court," she said, her voice steady and resonant, "has listened to every explanation, every justification, every truth uncovered through these proceedings." Lila lowered her gaze. She no longer clutched her purse. She no longer braced her shoulders in entitlement. She simply stood there, present, humbled, and stripped of all pretense. Judy continued. Miss Vega suffered significant financial damage. Her business suffered, her employees suffered, and the emotional strain of months without accountability magnified that harm. Marisol's hands tightened around her documents, but her expression held no resentment, only relief that someone finally recognized the burden she'd carried alone. "And while the court acknowledges," Judy said, "the emotional wounds Miss Harrington expressed, wounds of invisibility and pressure, those inner battles do not erase outward harm." Lila nodded once, tears sliding freely now. She made no attempt to hide them. Judge Judy inhaled slowly, then delivered the verdict with clear, unwavering authority. "Miss Harrington, the court orders you to pay $50,000 in damages to Miss Vega." A ripple moved through the audience, not shock, but the grounded, heavy acknowledgement of justice finally settling into place. Lila pressed her trembling hands flat against the podium. The number wasn't arbitrary. She could feel that. It was measured, purposeful, a mirror reflecting the weight of her choices. "This amount," Judy said, "is not meant to punish your family name. It is meant to remind you that accountability belongs to the individual who caused the harm, not the shadow that stands behind them." Amber wiped a tear from her cheek. Marisol exhaled shakily, gratitude softening her posture. "And," Judy added, her tone shifting into something almost gentle, "I encourage you, Miss Harrington, to seek the kind of strength that does not rely on fear or status, but on honesty, on humility, on truth." Lila nodded again, her voice nearly gone. "Thank you, Your Honor." It wasn't gratitude for the fine. It was gratitude for being seen, perhaps for the first time, without the armor of her lineage. The gavel finally struck. The sound echoed through the courtroom, a clean, final note that resonated deep, as if sealing the transformation that had unfolded. As spectators rose, some shaking their heads, others silently absorbing the lesson, Marisol approached Lila. They didn't embrace. They didn't exchange forgiveness or apologies. But they met eyes, and in that brief, fragile moment, understanding passed between them. A bruise had been acknowledged, a truth had been spoken, and a consequence had found its rightful place. Judge Judy watched them, her expression unreadable but resolute, because in that courtroom, one truth always stood firm: power can protect you from many things, but never from the truth, and arrogance always collapses under its weight.